1. The Levite's concubine. This is one of the most disturbing stories in the entire Bible, found in Judges 19 during a time when Israel had no king and moral chaos reigned. A Levite man sought to reconcile with his concubine, who had left him and returned to her father's house. They journeyed back together and stopped in the Benjamite city of Gibeah for the night. An old man took them in, but wicked men of the city surrounded the house, demanding to have sex with the Levite. To protect himself, the Levite shockingly handed over his concubine.
That night, they came, not for money, not for food.
The men abused her all night until dawn. She collapsed at the doorstep, silent. The Levite took her body home, cut it into 12 pieces, and sent a piece to each tribe of Israel.
12 pieces was the cut, and sent them across Israel.
This gruesome act was a call for the nation to recognize the horror and respond. It led to a brutal civil war against the tribe of Benjamin, nearly destroying them. The aftermath included desperate measures to preserve Benjamin by forcibly taking wives from other communities. 2. Jephthah's daughter. The tragic vow. Jephthah, an Israelite judge, made a vow to God that if victorious in battle against the Ammonites, he would sacrifice as a burnt offering whatever came out of the door of his house first when he returned. After the victory, the first to greet him was his only child, his daughter. In heartbreak yet bound by his vow, she accepted her fate. She requested 2 months to mourn the life she would never have, especially that she would never marry. The text ambiguously suggests Jephthah either sacrificed her or dedicated her to lifelong virgin service at the tabernacle. Human sacrifice was forbidden in Israel, and scripture indicates God never desired this vow or its fulfillment, underscoring a tragic human error and cultural flaw rather than divine will.
Jephthah emerged victorious, but as he returned home, his heart sank when his beloved daughter, his only child, came out to welcome him with timbrels and dancing.
3. Elisha and the two bears. Shortly after Elisha succeeded Elijah as a prophet, he encountered a group of youths mocking him in Bethel. They jeered at him, insulting his baldness and showing disrespect not just personally, but to God's messenger.
As Elisha journeyed from Jericho to Bethel, a group of boys from the city ran out to mock him, calling him baldhead.
Elisha pronounced a curse in God's name, and two bears emerged from the woods and mauled 42 of the youths.
He pronounced a curse upon them in the name of the Lord, and suddenly from the forest, 2 ferocious bears emerged.
While shocking, the story reflects the seriousness with which disrespect to God's prophets was treated. The original Hebrew word for youths suggests they were likely mature enough to understand their rebellion, and the town had a history of opposing God. The incident shows divine protection and judgment for contempt against God's messengers during a time of widespread idolatry. 4. Tamar and Amnon. Lust and betrayal. Tamar, King David's daughter, was raped by her half-brother Amnon. His desire was lustful, not loving, and he tricked King David by pretending to be ill, summoning Tamar to attend him alone. Once alone, Amnon forced himself on her despite her protests and warnings about ruining her life and reputation. After assaulting her, he pushed her away in disgust, locking the door behind him. Tamar mourned deeply, tearing her royal clothes and covering herself with ashes. Her brother Absalom took her in and advised silence. Though King David was angry upon learning the truth, he took no action. Revenge eventually came when Absalom had Amnon killed, but the family was shattered, leaving lasting trauma and sorrow. 5. God sending a lying spirit. Judgment on Ahab. King Ahab of Israel wanted to reclaim Ramoth-Gilead, and sought his prophets' advice. 400 prophets falsely assured victory. King Jehoshaphat of Judah doubted this, prompting a true prophet Micaiah to be consulted. Micaiah described a vision where God sought someone to entice Ahab into battle so he would fall. A spirit volunteered to become a lying spirit in the mouths of Ahab's prophets, and God permitted it. Micaiah warned of the false prophet's deception leading to destruction, but Ahab ignored the warning, imprisoned Micaiah, and went to battle where he died. This story highlights how judgment came through the lies. Ahab wanted to believe, not from God actively deceiving, but from divine permission in response to persistent rebellion.
He had believed he could alter destiny. He had placed his faith in deception rather than truth.
6. God attempting to kill Moses. On Moses' journey back to Egypt, to lead the Israelites out of slavery, there was a sudden and mysterious attack by God. At a lodging place, God sought to kill Moses because Moses had neglected to circumcise his son, an important covenant sign between God and his people. Moses' wife Zipporah quickly circumcised their son, and touched Moses' feet with the foreskin, calling him a bridegroom of blood. This act appeased God and spared Moses' life. Later, due to the demands of his prophetic mission and possibly cultural reasons, Moses sent Zipporah and their sons back to her father's home in Midian for safety. Moses was separated from his family during his mission, but would later reunite with them. This story highlights the seriousness of covenant obedience and the personal challenges Moses faced in his role as God's deliverer. 7. The destruction of Jericho and its aftermath. The Israelites, under Joshua's leadership, marched around Jericho for 7 days as commanded by God. On the 7th day, the walls of Jericho collapsed after the priests blew trumpets, and the Israelites destroyed the city completely. God commanded total destruction of Jericho's inhabitants and goods in what is called a Hiram, or devotion to destruction. Anything not destroyed was cursed, and Achan's theft caused Israel's temporary defeat later. The destruction was meant to cleanse Canaan of idolatry and sin, but involved complete annihilation, raising questions about divine justice and war ethics. The curse on Jericho's site and the continuing tension with Canaanites reveal disturbing aftermaths of this total warfare. 8. The Nephilim God-human hybrids. The Nephilim appear briefly in Genesis 6 before the flood story. They were beings born from the sons of God and the daughters of men, resulting in giants or mighty men. Some interpretations view the sons of God as fallen angels or divine beings, making the Nephilim part human, part divine. Their presence represented profound corruption on earth, prompting God to flood the world, sparing only Noah's family to restart humanity. This story mixes divine beings with humans and explains one reason for God's drastic judgment, showing a disturbing mingling that defied divine order. 9. 7 demons cast out of Mary Magdalene. In the New Testament, Mary Magdalene is described as a woman from whom Jesus cast out 7 demons. This indicates severe possession or affliction with multiple evil spirits, showing deep spiritual distress. That Jesus delivered her from such possession demonstrates both the reality of demonic influence in the biblical worldview and Jesus' authority over evil spirits. Mary Magdalene becomes a leading follower, highlighting transformation from darkness to devoted discipleship. The story reflects the disturbing reality of demonic oppression and the power of spiritual liberation. 10. Jael killing commander Sisera. During a war between Israel and King Jabin of Canaan, Sisera, the enemy commander, fled after defeat and sought refuge in Jael's tent. The wife of Heber the Kenite, Jael, welcomed him and gave him milk. When he slept, she took a tent peg and hammered it through his temple, killing him instantly. This violent act by a woman delivered Israel from its enemy and fulfilled Deborah's prophecy. It's a brutal story of loyalty, cunning, and divine justice, where a seemingly weak individual plays a decisive role in God's deliverance plan, showing unexpected means used in biblical narratives. 11. The prophet eaten by a lion. A prophet from Judah was sent by God to confront King Jeroboam of Israel, who led the people into idolatry. The prophet declared God's judgment, and the altar at Bethel miraculously split open as a sign of truth. God told the prophet not to eat or drink anything in the land, and to return by a different route. However, an old prophet lied to him, claiming an angel said it was safe to eat with him. The younger prophet believed this lie, disobeyed God's command, and was killed by a lion on the way home. The lion did not harm the body or the donkey, showing divine control. The prophet's disobedience and its fatal consequence emphasized the seriousness of obeying God's instructions.
On the way, something surprising and at the same time tragic happened. A lion suddenly appeared and attacked him, killing him.
12. Lot and his daughters. Incest to preserve a family line. After fleeing Sodom's destruction, Lot and his 2 daughters took refuge in a cave. Believing that no other people remained on earth, the daughters devised a plan to preserve their family line. They got their father drunk on 2 consecutive nights and each lay with him without his awareness. These incestuous acts resulted in pregnancies, producing Moab and Ben-Ammi, ancestors of future peoples who would oppose Israel. This disturbing story reflects fear, desperation, and a collapse of faith during extreme circumstances, showing human tragedy without divine approval. 13. Death of King Herod for accepting godlike praise. Herod Agrippa, ruling Judea, was praised by the people for his political skill. During a public speech, they shouted he spoke like a god, not a man. Instead of redirecting honor to God, Herod accepted the praise.
The people shouted, "This is the voice of a god, not a man."
Immediately, An angel of the Lord struck him down and he died a painful death, eaten by worms. This judgment underscores the dangers of pride and the requirement to give glory solely to God. It also contrasts sharply with the apostles, who humbly attributed their works and miracles to God. 14. The circumcision ambush. Revenge after Dinah's Dinah, daughter of Jacob, was by Shechem, son of the Hivite prince Hamor. Afterward, Shechem sought to marry Dinah. Jacob's sons deceitfully agreed on the condition that all Hivite men be circumcised. When the men were recovering from the painful procedure, Simeon and Levi, two of Jacob's sons, attacked, killing all the males, including Hamor and Shechem. They rescued Dinah and looted the city, taking wealth, livestock, women and children. Jacob was horrified by this violent revenge, but his sons defended their actions as justice for Dinah's violation. The story illustrates a mix of righteous anger and cold, calculated violence masked by religious rites.
Simeon and Levi attacked the city, slaughtering the men and rescuing their sister.
15. The Benjamite massacre and enslavement of young women. Brutal tribal war aftermath. Following the Levites' concubines' trauma and the war against the tribe of Benjamin, the other Israelite tribes sought to eliminate Benjamin almost entirely. After killing many Benjamite men, they realized the tribe faced extinction because Benjamite women had been largely destroyed or enslaved. To preserve the tribe, the Israelites allowed Benjamite men to abduct women from a festival in Shiloh to marry. This harsh and morally troubling solution reveals the grim realities and complex social dynamics in Israel during its lawless period. 16. The talking donkey and Balaam's prophecy. Balaam was a prophet hired by King Balak of Moab to curse the Israelites. God initially told Balaam not to go, but later permitted him to go only to speak what God commanded. As Balaam rode his donkey, the donkey saw an angel of the Lord blocking the path with a drawn sword, which Balaam could not see. The donkey tried 3 times to avoid the angel by veering off the road, pressing against a wall and finally lying down. Each time Balaam beat the donkey in frustration. Suddenly, the Lord opened the donkey's mouth, and it spoke, asking Balaam why he had beaten her. Then God opened Balaam's eyes to see the angel.
"Move!" he snapped. But the animal refused, because it saw what Balaam could not. Before them, unseen to human eyes,
who rebuked Balaam for his harsh treatment of the donkey and warned him to speak only what God commands. Balaam obeyed, and instead of cursing Israel, he blessed them, much to King Balak's anger. This story shows divine intervention, supernatural communication, and God's overriding will despite human schemes. 17. The witch of Endor summoned Samuel. Near the end of King Saul's reign, the Philistines gathered for war and Saul was fearful. God was silent to him, likely due to Saul's disobedience. In desperation, Saul sought a medium to summon the dead prophet Samuel. Disguised, Saul visited the witch of Endor at night and asked her to bring forth Samuel's spirit. Though hesitant at first, she complied and saw a ghostly old man in a robe, whom Saul recognized as Samuel. Samuel rebuked Saul for disturbing him, and declared that Saul's kingdom was rejected by God, and that Saul and his sons would die the next day in battle. Saul was terrified and received his final meal.
Samuel said to Saul, "Why have you disturbed me by bringing me up?"
"I'm in great distress. The Philistines are fighting against me, and God has turned away from me."
The Bible condemns necromancy and spirit summoning, and this rare event was a divine judgment, allowed once, showing Saul's tragic spiritual fall from light to darkness. 18. God turns Lot's wife into a pillar of salt. During the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, God commanded Lot and his family to flee without looking back. However, Lot's wife disobeyed and looked back at the fiery destruction. She was instantly transformed into a pillar of salt. This event serves as a dire warning about obedience and the consequences of clinging to a sinful past. It is a powerful and chilling image of judgment.
I'm not afraid. Just one look. Just one look.
19. Angelic battles and demonic oppressions. The Bible contains accounts of spiritual warfare involving angels and demons. Some biblical passages describe angels fighting heavenly battles, while others show demons possessing or oppressing humans. These stories reveal a complex spiritual realm with real consequences on earth, illustrating the conflict between good and evil beyond the physical world. Though often abstract, these narratives provide a disturbing glimpse into unseen spiritual battles impacting human lives. 20. Various unusual and bizarre episodes. There are numerous strange and little-discussed Bible stories, such as Elisha raising a child from death, Ezekiel's vision of dry bones coming to life, or strange dietary laws and rituals. These stories, while less focused on violence or horror, contribute to the Bible's enigmatic and multifaceted nature, often challenging modern readers to understand their symbolic or theological meanings. If you found these disturbing Bible stories eye-opening, don't miss our next video, Every Dangerous and Controversial Holy Book Explained. We break down the most debated and risky passages from world religions. Watch now to see what's hidden in other sacred texts.